Hi, everyone. This is Lynn Davenport. I'm here with Russell Fish. If you don't know Russell Fish, we're both in Dallas here, and Russell and I have known each other for a number of years, and sometimes we go head to head. We don't necessarily always agree on issues like education or school choice, but we were talking the other day on the phone about a multitude of issues, and we started talking about this heated race with Jennifer Stoddard as the current Dallas GOP chair, and how Lieutenant Colonel Allan West is challenging her for this seat. And so Russell and I get to talking. He tells me this story that I think everyone needs to know about our election fraud issues in Dallas County. So Russell, tell us, just give us a quick introduction of who you are and why you're such a troublemaker.
Well, I'm the spokesman for the Open Records Project, and we deal with anti-corruption. And so if you're corrupt, we probably are trouble for you. We're associated with the Dallas Examiner, which is a newspaper. And going back to our early days, 25 years ago, we were doing what they call the voter roll call, which we would publish the list of voters and their history. And what the Examiner was trying to do is they were trying to get folks out to vote. Is you'd be embarrassed if you were not on the list, and you were, particularly if you were a politician. So anyway, that was kind of how we got started.
It's just like when people would knock on my door and say, "We see that you haven't voted yet."
Those are usually political.
I know, but they get the updates.
Yeah, no, we put this online, and at the time, what we found out was there were a bunch of particularly minority politicians. They're big talkers, and they never voted. And anyway, so that was very, very popular for them.
Okay, well, so let's go into your interactions with Jennifer Stoddard-Hajdu, who is the current Dallas County GOP chair. So give us a little background of your interactions with her.
Well, I had no idea who she was and anything about her. In 2020, we discovered that the Dallas Central Count computer had been compromised.
And wait, let me stop you for a second, because at that time it was Rodney Anderson who was the chair. So she wasn't actually appointed until 2021. Is that correct?
Exactly. No, exactly.
So when he stepped down, he endorsed her, and she fell out of the sky. JJ Koch brought her here.
Yeah, falling out of the sky is exactly the way I would describe it.
And I'm in her precinct, and I'm running against her husband. She actually lives in my neighborhood of Lake Highlands in Dallas. So keep going. So 2020, okay. You discover this.
We just one of our volunteers that was working on the voter roll call discovered an anomaly in early voting. Is we were reporting the early voting, what's called the cumulative vote, which is all the people that have voted up until that time. The counties were having to publish that, and the 2020 election was the first election they had to do that. Well, so you'd get, say 10,000 voters that had voted up until October the 10th. And then October the 11th, you would have 10,000 plus however many voted the previous day. Well, what our volunteer found was that the voters that had previously voted, many of them would get purged. It was like they no longer existed. Their vote no longer existed. And as time went on in early voting, we found that not only were literally thousands of voters being purged, but a week or so later, the computer would revote them. Well,
and I suspected that this happened in my race in 2017, but I didn't know the voter fraud and the voter issues until afterwards, so I couldn't do any kind of forensics. So I suspected that they added voters to the rolls and then took them away. So you're saying they can do this during early voting?
This is not adding to the rolls. This is adding to the people who actually voted. Now the rolls is rolls is another issue, which is how Stoddard got involved.
Yes.
But anyway, so this started out like, 100, 200 a day and so forth. But by the middle of October, it was tens of thousands. It was lots of people. So at that point, we do what we always do is we contact the FBI. We obviously contacted Dallas County Elections, and then continued to document what was going on. Now, the other thing that we noticed was when you have an election, there are certain people that are eligible to vote. They have to have registered 30 days before the beginning of the election.
Right, so you couldn't have people coming in and vote and registering to vote in real time while the early voting is coming on.
No, absolutely not.
That stops weeks before.
That stops 30 days before.
Yes. And so that was your call was to get so you would have the names and those who were registered beforehand, and that was your open records request. That way you could reconcile with it after elections had started.
You want to make sure that the people who are voted are actually registered.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And which is kind of important.
Very important.
So anyway, in 2020, we had what the county said was the eligible voters before early voting began, and that allowed us to track some of these anomalies. Well, in 2022, we made the open records request like we always do to get the eligible voters, and the county refused to give it to us. So we prepared to file suit, and then we were immediately engaged in this firefight with all kinds of big guns. And we had, for example, we had two attorneys that had to back out of the case. One of them is a very well-known attorney and a partner in a law firm, and the general partner said, "Look, if you don't drop this case, you're out of this firm." That told us that
if they didn't drop the case, that they would be booted from the firm.
Correct.
And
go ahead.
So, and are you able to say how many votes were purged?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not only do we have how many votes were purged, we have all the names. You can look on if you live in West.
I've got here 56,974 votes purged and 50,529 votes created, and that was briefed to the FBI. You're saying?
Oh yeah, we had a 100-page portfolio that we sent to the FBI. I mean, that's what we do, particularly when we're involved in criminal stuff. And this was large enough to where it would be classified as criminal. But we actually have the names on there. I mean, you can go over to Westminster, which is a couple of streets over from me, and type in Westminster and say, "Give me the list of all the people who were purged." And I think there was 45 people from Hillcrest to 75 that were purged after they voted.
So you got the names and personal details.
Exactly. We can tell you voters, where you voted. I'm sorry?
Of the hacked voters. And so these eligible voters were being changed by the thousands. You got the name.
Well, there were two things that were done. The first was people had voted. They would show up on the cumulative vote roster the subsequent day. And yep, I voted, everything's good. And then a week later, they're gone.
Okay.
And then maybe a week or two later after that, the computer voted them again.
So you suspect that this is a very sophisticated.
This is terribly
operation and possibly a foreign entity.
Well, it's somebody who's got a lot of resources. I mean, we have some of the best computer, anti-hacker, white hats kind of people that we've been associated with. We found the Dallas CAD hack. We found the Federal Reserve hack.
That was the Central Appraisal District.
That's a Central Appraisal District. That's right. They got hacked not once but twice. Yeah. And we told them how they were being hacked. And in classic bureaucratic form, the IT guy sent us to public relations. I think it cost the city of Dallas $9 million to pay off that. But we just quit messing with Dallas County and City of Dallas and the municipal, hospital and so forth, because they just wouldn't pay any attention. So we've, focused on other things. And they figured it's other people's money and we'll just pay the bribe and pay the ransom and just move on. And that's what they did.
Okay, so let's get back to your interactions with Jennifer Stoddard-Hajdu.
Okay, so
the current Dallas County GOP chair who's being challenged by Lieutenant Colonel Allan West. So correct. Jennifer, your first interaction with her was after she was appointed, and then she was actually elected once she was on the ballot. So she was filling in and then was elected. Is that correct?
You know more about. Again, I had no idea who she
2021,
was.
She's I believe it was 2022. She's only been there a couple of years.
Yeah, the people that we were dealing with in Dallas County were obviously county commissioners. Every now and then,
you were in a meeting. You told me about a meeting.
Oh, that was
where Jenkins comes in. Clay Jenkins, the county judge.
Well, there are maybe 4 or 5 groups in the country that are really sophisticated on this stuff. There's a group in Houston, there's a group in Fort Worth, there's a group in Arizona. And so maybe a year and a half ago, well, actually, this would have been before 2022. There was a subcommittee in Congress, and anyway, a bunch of us gave depositions, and I gave the deposition for the Open Records Project, and I don't know what was going on up there. I don't live in Washington and don't really communicate with those people very much. But in the process of that, there was, of course, the Democrats were in charge of this subcommittee, and even though we did our deposition, it looked like nothing came of it. So prior to 2022, we tried to replicate the same work that we've done in 2020, and the county said no. And so,
okay, so this is so then fast forward, we got 2022, you requested the eligible voters and you were denied by Dallas County.
Correct.
Okay.
So that we could find out if the eligible voters, the number was changing during the election. And in fact, after the election, what we found in 2020 was that the eligible voters were changing by thousands, and even changing after the election was over for 2 weeks until the results were released.
Are you talking about these would this be May municipal elections of 2020?
No, this was the presidential election 2020.
Oh yeah, I know, but I'm talking about now. Fast forward 2022.
Fast forward to 2022. We wanted to replicate that.
For which election?
The
reason why I'm asking is because I was a candidate in 2022.
Right. Let me.
This would have been.
I don't remember the name. It was in. I believe it was in November, but
it would have been the fall.
Yeah, I think it was the fall election.
Right.
So people are calling us and saying don't file, and wasn't completely clear who everybody was. Well, Jennifer Stoddard dropped out of the sky on us. She called me directly and got my cell phone from somebody, and just like important people have my cell phone, you have my cell phone.
So important.
So and said,
he calls you out of the blue, and she
calls me out of the blue. And I said, she was Jennifer Hajdu then. And I said, what's a Jennifer Hajdu? And she says, well, I'm, blah, blah, blah for the GOP. And I said, great. What can I do for you? And she said, we've got this, the GOP's got this situation under control. I've got commitments, and this is 2 days.
What does that mean when you say I've got commitments? What does she mean by that?
I have no idea.
Meaning I'm going to handle this, or meaning
exactly. Essentially, that was it. I've
got commitments to handle this. Okay.
Yeah. You don't need to go suing anybody.
Right. We're handling this. We're taking care of it.
Right.
Yes. Got it.
Don't make people mad. Anytime we hear, that's why they call me a troublemaker. And anytime we hear you'll make people mad, we know we're over the target. And
it's important for people to understand what we're battling here is not the Democrats. I mean, it's obvious. They tell us who
Absolutely
they
correct.
are, what they're doing. Got it.
Absolutely
But
correct.
when you've got your own party working against you, then you've got a huge.
Exactly.
It's
And
sabotage from within. We have
yeah.
been sabotaged year over year from within.
Now, also interesting is, and we published a article on this on openrecords.org, is the Democrats are going against each other. I think it was City District, was it District 8? And there's like 4,900 votes, and 1,300 of them were purged after they voted. This is an all black
This
district.
isn't just, and that's important for, that's another important point, because we have an ally in the Democrat Party who has revealed his own issues with his election, where he knows there was cheating. And so this isn't just happening. I think you only hear it mainly from the right, but this is happening in both parties. It's happening in elections all across the county, as well as the state and the nation. Okay, so let's get back to Jennifer. So she tries to prevent you from suing.
Right. And she,
Despite her interference, you were able to file, and you made the deadline to get this.
We made the deadline to get filed, except we filed the paperwork, but it was never acknowledged by the court.
Okay,
They
so
were-
this
they
is
were- they refused Tobolowski.
Okay,
They
so the 298th,
Yes,
right?
correct.
Judge Tobolowski. Okay, got it. And they threw this out.
Well, hang on, you jumped a couple of steps. So
Right.
the first issue was get it set for hearing. Wouldn't get it set, and early voting begins. Well, once early voting begins, what we're asking for is moot. It doesn't matter anymore, because you don't know, how many registered voters there were before voting began. Well, 3 days after early voting began, magically it gets set for hearing. So our attorney goes down for the hearing, and the district attorney is representing Dallas County, and Tobolowski says, I cannot hear this because I do not have jurisdiction. And which is kind of a cop out. I mean, it's district, this is district court, this is state statute, this is clearly subject to disclosure by law, and I don't have jurisdiction. If you don't, who does? We have to go to the UN. I mean, family court, traffic court. I mean, and then she says,
Wapner, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So then she says, and not only do I not have jurisdiction to hear this, I don't even have jurisdiction to issue a ruling that I don't have jurisdiction. Now, what that means is we have nothing to appeal. So this is a pretty sleazy thing, but
yeah, you're thousands of dollars into this.
That's $8,000.
Yeah, 8,000 of your own.
Yeah, and this is a bunch of volunteers. This is not the GOP. The GOP at that time, including Stoddard, were out there raising money. We're going to go fix elections. It's all going to be wonderful. Trust us. We got it. We got it. It's all BS. Absolute total BS. So once I found out she was from the GOP, I just opened up on her. So where the heck have you guys been? I mean, and not only are you not helping, and at this point we had been in combat with all these agencies, all the way going up to Washington for a year and a half. No GOP at all. Nobody showed up, including Jennifer Stoddard and her predecessor. All that Jennifer did on this 2 days before the filing deadline was try to throw sand in the gears. Is again, make it go away. Now the question that I've been asked subsequently is, well, is Jennifer Stoddard, she's some corrupt bribe, blah, blah, blah. I don't think so. She had no idea about the issue. She had no idea about the players. She didn't know anything about the law, even though she's a lawyer. She was just there to try and get us to delay long enough that we can't get into court. And it turned out we, got into court anyway. And the judge, did her own thing to make sure that we never got a ruling. But like you said, it's tough enough when you're fighting people like that. And then you got GOP that is trying to slow things down as well. Let me say a word about Tobolowsky. I've been asked the same thing. Is Tobolowsky corrupt? Was she bribed? Blah, blah, blah. I don't think so. I think she's a puppet. She was there. She could have given all kinds of sophisticated reasons, and the district attorney was given her some help. She could have made some sort of ruling, but she didn't. There was no intellect involved here. She
You're
just
saying they're just kind of useful tools for a much larger.
I would agree. I think they're both useful tools. And I would not be all that hard on Tobolowsky's, because somebody from deep state or wherever said make this disappear. I think you also referred to foreign entities. We have a fair amount of experience in dealing with hackers worldwide. The hackers that are the most sophisticated and the most dangerous, it's not like China or Russia. It's criminal organizations. They have discovered that there's money to be made in hacking computers. And if you go on openrecords.org, we did a paper for the legislature, and that described this is how these people work, and here are a bunch of the people that are involved. Now, from time to time, it looks like some of these sovereign entities will hire these guys. If you go to openrecords.org, we did an example of how a computer hacker organization would hack an election and use it to generate revenue. And it's like a little app. It's how to hack an election. Who do you want elected? How many votes do you want for that person? And okay, that's the bid right now is $12,000. If it's a Senate race, the bid now is $300,000. If it's a presidential race, it's probably $8.5 million. And it's like eBay. And
were you at Beth Beasel's summit where she held, where they showed how they hack it in real time?
Yeah, right. Yes, and
seen how they do it, and
not that now Russ Ramsland and I'm trying to remember, is it Cook? Who's his guru? Have done a really good job on that. They're focused.
Mark.
Yeah, Mark. Yeah, they're focused mostly on the compromise of machines at the precinct level. We did not set out to find this. We stumbled on it because we've been dealing with the elections, like I said, for 25 years, so we know what the data look like. And the particularly dangerous part of this is when you compromise a central count system, particularly one that is almost universal across the country. That is a huge amount of leverage. And if you're a criminal enterprise, man, that's just a way to print money. Who would you like to be your senator? Who would you like? And the same techniques that can tilt a senatorial race or a congressional representative race or in the legislature, you can tilt a school board with. And it's just, the organization, if I were a criminal mind, it's really, really easy to set that up. And the example that we put up there, you can see in real time how the opponents would be buying votes. And that is exactly the way it would be done. And it's possible that has already been done already, but it's for a computer person, that is so obvious, the next step that we decided to, put that up. And somebody asked, well, could you connect that to a real computer now? Well, the answer is probably. Would we do it? No, we don't. We tend not to break the law, but
No, of course you wouldn't break the law, but I mean, you're talking about very complicated issues from a technology perspective, and this, much like the solutions that I talk about in education, we've got all these problems, but the work is hard, but the solutions are actually pretty simple, and that's why we have all these campaigns to return to paper ballots and hand counting.
I would agree. I would
And
agree.
because with the technology, everything is hackable, and I mean, it's very complicated. But when you return to a system like that, they go, "Oh, how would you do it?" Well, we can do it. We can do it. And it's simple and it's easy to reconcile. I couldn't, as a candidate. So the second time I ran in 2022 and then went into a runoff, I could not reconcile. Allie Raskin and I went up to Central Count. I could not see my own ballots in order to be able to make sure that when we did a sample audit.
What county was this?
This is Dallas County. I'm
Oh,
talking.
so you were in Dallas County.
Yeah, I mean, this
Okay,
is,
so
I've run
so
twice
that
in
Tippins
Dallas
Pool,
County.
Tippins Pool was in charge then.
Higgins Pool was gone by the 2022 race, but the 2017 race, she was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was clearly a stooge. And I
Well,
say
and remember they've got that money that came from the CTCL, the Center for Tech.
that
and
was
Supply.
subsequent to 2017 though.
But we promised our friend that we would make this recording really quick, and I know you and I could get in the weeds. I do want to go into a couple of reasons why we're really supporting Lieutenant Colonel Allan West, who is challenging Jennifer Stoddard because of all of the evidence that we have that she has been ineffective at in growing the party, getting our precinct chair races. I mean, our precinct chair seats filled. And then, of course, the things that you've just mentioned, these huge issues. She's met with the Secretary of State recently, and she and Russ Ramsland did this. And
the new Secretary of State,
Jay Nelson.
Jay
Yes.
Nelson, right.
She and Tan Parker, I mean, she's got it on her, I think it's on her Twitter. She's recently put herself on Twitter, and she's been very visible lately because she is under a contested race. But so she goes to the Secretary of State, and so there, gives the people the illusion that they are doing something about this. Now, I'm not saying Tan's not trying to do something, but the Secretary of State, what good is it with taking this issue to the Secretary of State if she's thwarting your efforts that you tried to do back in 20?
Right. That Jane Nelson, I know Jane, and I don't know her well, but I do know her. And as far as I can tell, she's probably as good a person as you can get for Secretary of State. Now, we haven't talked about it in this session, but the Secretary of State's computer was compromised as well. And when Dr. Samantha, one of our guys from Seattle, came in to testify, and I testified after 2020, Keith Ingram, who is the Secretary of State's head of election, something or other, got up and testified and said, "This is the most secure election that we've ever had." Blah blah blah.
It's like when they say this is the most conservative legislature we've ever had.
Right.
Yeah.
So when it came time for me to speak, I said, you might want to ask Keith how come that the Secretary of State's own public access of voters has 15,000 voters that voted with voter IDs of 0. Inquiring minds would like to know. He had me ejected. He had security taken down.
We can't have that kind of, the truth is,
how dare you,
Russell, stop it. Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to go back to the GOP county issues, and I'm going to rattle off a couple of stats because these are important things. 75% of county races on the 2024 primary are unopposed by a Republican candidate. This is Dallas County. Okay. So we're run by Democrats. 73% of judicial races are unopposed by a Republican in the 2024 primary. 100% of Dallas County commissioners are Democrats. 74% of precinct chairs seats are vacant in 2024. 20% decrease in precinct chairs for 2024. This is all under Jennifer Stoddard's reign. 88% of Republican candidates lost in Dallas County in 2022. 93% of Republican candidates lost in Dallas County in 2020. Dallas County District Attorney is a George Soros-backed Democrat. And then Democrats are in charge of elections and election integrity. And then we've got recently where they've hired, well, they fired Tony what's his name? Michael.
As far as I know, I believe he actually retired. I don't think he was fired. He
did. He retired. No, they hired the fired Peter Garcia from Tarrant County. Sorry, I mixed those two up. No, Tony, I keep saying Tony. Michael Scarpello, he retired or quit. And then, but Hyder Garcia from Tarrant County, the guy who's been involved in the Venezuelan elections. I mean, talk about a foreign entity. This is an interesting hire that they have.
Can I say a few words about
out of Tarrant County? So now he's ours in Dallas County. So so we have serious issues. And so Jennifer Stoddard talks about her record and how she's done all of these things. But when all said and done, these stats that I just read you, they can be found on Colonel West's website, westfordallas.com. These are the facts. And I'm challenging her husband, Jennifer Stoddard's husband, Mark Hajdu, for precinct chair, because part of what a precinct chair does is that they go and they get people to go out and vote. They figure out who the conservatives are in the neighborhood, where you live, and that's how we grow the ground base. But if our elections are not secure, this is all kind of a moot point. So we must get the precinct chairs established so we can all get the kind of information that you're sharing here, and then we can use that to push from the ground up to our elected officials, to the county officials, to the media. And of course, we have to be the media, because Dallas Morning News, and the media won't cover this. This is why you have your Open Records Project, where you have a repository for all of this information that you've done. Years and years of work trying to clean up Dallas County. But if our own party is not clean, then what are we to do? We have to unseat these people, and we have to overwhelm the polls, because we know that this election fraud is happening.
Well, Jennifer behavior after the 2022 election was just beyond the pale. I mean, you could, when she called out of the blue and was, trying to slow us down, you could say, well, no, she was ignorant. She didn't know what was going on. Somebody just told her, hey, you got to kill this thing before they get it filed. But after the election, the GOP had a meeting at GOP headquarters, and there were a bunch of judges that were there. And I don't know if you were there, but
yes, I was there, and I watched it. And they had the Secretary of State's office on the phone while they had confirmation that these candidates were in fact eligible. And in real time, Jennifer and her team said, nope, I'm sorry, those have been deemed.
I listened to that, and
they're preventing people from running for precinct chair, and they're preventing people who are eligible. So, I mean, where do you go when your own party is?
What was the most egregious was when people started throwing rocks at her, and the fellow from Austin, whose name I forget, she's talked about how we're doing all this wonderful stuff, and how you should trust us, and we got it. And I don't know if you remember, but I was at the back of the room. I was home in bed. I'd been a judge that day, and I was deathly ill. I don't know what happened, but
was it when you were my judge that day?
I was that day. It was that day, and you were one of the shining lights, you and Meg. But so anyway, one of the other judges called and said, "Russell, get out of bed, get over here, because Jennifer Stoddard is just making this stuff up as she goes." And I got there, and that was exactly what she was doing. Well, I listened to that for about 5 or 6 minutes, and I finally stood up, and I think I used some profanity, but I pointed out is you guys went out and raised money to clean up these elections. And when it came time to actually get in the fight, you guys were nowhere to be found. There was a little Open Records Project with a bunch of volunteers and some guys that were writing checks. It wasn't GOP checks. It was, you guys bagged up. So don't tell these people that you were in there fighting, because you weren't. we looked around and it's us standing at the
So
bottom of the hill
all
looking up at
empty
these candidates.
platitudes. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
so we would say too. And then now that it's election time, you see she does this
Yeah.
whole press release about how she's gone to the Secretary of State. And I mean, we've been asking for far more than what she's done.
We dealt with 3 different Secretary of States, including one that I almost got in a fist fight with. But because when we show up to meetings, and this goes to the troublemaker thing, we go to meetings and we have politicians and some very important people that will just lie to our faces. We don't take that. You lie to us, we got the receipts, and that makes people mad. And you've got to be go along and get along. And anyway, that's kind of what we do. Can we say a few words about Colonel West?
Yeah.
Okay. I do not know him politically. I know him personally, and I have immense respect for him because we share some similar backgrounds. And he is not a billionaire, so that means that he can be influenced, but I think he is less likely to be influenced because he has some strong values. And the people that served under him absolutely loved him. They would walk through fire for Colonel West. And he's any help that we can give him, we certainly should, because he's not going to back down. He will.
Well, and I have the confidence that he would never do this kind of thing, that what happened with you. I believe that if he was in office in that seat, not only does he have the ground game, he has a strategy, he has a plan for taking back Dallas County, but also fighting against all the issues that you brought forth. So if you came to him, I believe that he would listen to you. I believe that he would say, well, this happened.
He would listen to me because I know him.
Right. And so that's why I think we have, I mean, it's imperative that we fight to get him. And but then again, I mean, here we are. How do we ensure that he even gets a fair election? I mean, if you look at the governor's race, he ran against Abbott, and there were 4 candidates in that race. Abbott got 66.6%. I call BS on that. I don't see how that is possible. I know the governor is a masterful politician and his war chest is massive, but he had 3 really solid patriots running against him. And I just don't believe that he cleared that many votes. I have a hard time believing that. But I mean, again, how do I prove that? So, okay, Russell, let's wrap up. We need an action plan. What do we do at this point?
Well,
what do we tell the listeners at this point? Share the video, share the story so that people understand the truth about Jennifer. What else?
I was going to say a couple of things when Colonel West, if he in fact gets that position, something that he should absolutely do, and is an incredible opportunity, is reach out to the Black community. That is a Black man. That is a powerful Black. Reach out to the Black community.
Born in an all-Black hospital. Absolutely. I think there's been a real void there. The conservative Black voter is ignored.
And what doesn't even matter if they're conservative, the Black voters in general. The other is reach out to the Hispanic community. Now, we have a Hispanic outreach person I think you may have met that in the Open Records Project. And because the Hispanics, people seem to think that the Hispanics are a monolithic block and they're all illegals and dealing dope and stuff. That is not the case. And the same thing is true in the Black community. The Black community has a very strong, particularly church going. That is a huge block. And
and back to the Hispanic, I remember when Dwayne Stovall was running for I think Congress, and he was talking about the Texian, creating this Texian party in the Tejano roots of Texas, and we're going decades and decades and decades back. But they are more conservative than people realize, but they've just been told decade over decade to vote Democrat when it doesn't align with their values.
That's right.
He was really zeroing in on engaging those with the Tejano roots, and I really admired his campaign for that. Okay, so yes, got that for voter engagement. What else? Anything else?
The
How do we reach you? Open Records Project.
openrecords.org. You can, let's see, what is my email? Open Records email. It's I think it's I think it is Spokesman at openrecords.org. Spokesman at openrecords.org.
Also, you can click. This is what I do. So because in order to save time, whenever I'm watching a YouTube video, I click in the top right-hand corner and speed it up like 1.75 or so. That way you can get through a video really quickly. So we'll talk really fast like this, but it saves time. And it cuts out the Southern drawl. Okay, so what else? Anything else before we close?
We've asked ourselves internally, how do we fix the voting problem? You mentioned the paper ballots thing. We're a bunch of computer geeks, and well, you guys must love computers. Computers are absolutely not securable. And if you're running a nuclear power plant or running a hospital, you should not be using heavy computer, particularly with internet access. You cannot secure it. You're just guaranteeing that you're going to have a failure. Paper ballots.
And that's what I was mentioning with the education is returning to books, paper, pencils, pay the teachers with the money saved on the wasteful and harmful technologies. I didn't finish that other part of the sentence. And so the issues are similar in a lot of ways with the hacking and the problems in technology and education. Okay, well, thank you so much, Russell. I so appreciate you telling this story. It's an important story for people to understand that we have corrupt leaders and we have a corrupt government, and we have to be pushing back and standing up and exposing the truth on what's happening with our elections, because it's important for us to have fair elections, right?
So did I make you mad today?
No, not at all. No, we're in agreement.
You must be sick. We're usually fist fighting. Anyway, thanks for asking me, and we'll help. At least I will help. Now, I think Colonel West will be great.
Okay, thanks so much, and we will update everyone once the story gets out, if maybe any change happens as a result. So talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.